Hello, family. Welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. So in the last video I talked about, what did I talk about? High frequency beings. And in that video, I mentioned something about energy vampires, and somebody asked me, what is an energy vampire? And how do you know if you're surrounded by them? Like, what does it feel like when they're around you? So, energy vampires. Energy vampires are people who lower your emotional energy, either intentionally or unconsciously. Most of the time, it's unconsciously. They don't know that they're doing it. And these people could be anybody. They could be your friends. They could be your family members, your mom, your dad, your siblings, your aunts, uncles, grandparents, literally anybody. Aunts, uncles, did I say aunts, uncles? Anybody. They could be your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whoever you're dating or talking to, your colleagues, people at work, your neighbors. These are people, energy vampires are people who feed on you. They feed on your care when they seek out to you to take care of them in some way, either emotionally or physically. So they feed on your care and your attention. Mostly it's your attention, and can leave you feeling very stressed, very drained, exhausted, and overwhelmed. Relationships with energy vampires are toxic, very toxic. Often they're very toxic. They can cause you to feel physically and emotionally drained, particularly if you are an empath and you're highly attuned to the emotions of the people that are around you, or if you're one of those high frequency beings that I talked about in the last video. I made a mention, that's when I made the mention of the energy vampires. And I also said that I am super sensitive to energy. Like most of you that have been following me for years on this platform already know that I'm super sensitive to energy. Talk to you guys about it all the time. I tell you guys I can feel when we're getting one of those solar storms. I can feel, my telltale signs is the hot feet. I'm really sensitive to energy. I'm sensitive to the energy of people, what's going on in a room full of people, even just a small setting, could just be my family. I'm sensitive to TV, watching TV, certain things that I'm watching on TV. I never used to be this way. I used to love scary movies and watch all that crazy, like bloody, gory stuff. I can't do all that. I like scary movies, but I don't like that chainsaw stuff, bloody, cut heads off, killing. I don't like that. It does something to me now that it didn't do to me before my awakening consciously. But I'm really sensitive to energy, and it's energy that's all around me. Sometimes I'm so sensitive that I freak my own self out. It seems the more I take care of myself, like the more I take care of myself and I eat cleaner and I detox from poisons. For instance, I no longer brush my teeth with fluoride. I haven't done that in years, but I actually just switched my toothpaste to a mineral powder. And I don't use deodorant with aluminum in it and all the other poisons that it has in it. Um, I try to eat as clean as possible. I drink a lot of water. I like my coconut water. I don't try to drink a lot of water. I do drink a lot of water, especially because I wear the patches. You guys have seen me wear the patch. I'd have to turn around to show it to you, but they're on the back of my neck. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, I'm sitting on the floor. So yeah, I drink a lot of water because of the patches. Um, And I'm just detoxing a lot of chemicals and poisons from my body. And it seems like the more I detox these poisons and these chemicals and these heavy metals, I I seem to be more sensitive to the world around me. I become more sensitive to energy, more and more energy, and it's pretty wild sometimes, and it freaks me out. Um, Now, anyways, let's move on about energy vampires. So energy vampires can take different shapes and forms. They have different characteristics. Some of them can come across, and the one, okay, I'm going to name all of these characteristics, and I'm going to tell you, they are either any of these characteristics, or they could be all of that. So they could come across as the victim. Some people enjoy playing the victim card, the, oh, woe is me, the violin person. Woe is me, woe is me. They're always telling you a sad story, something horrible about themselves, always. It's never anything positive. It's always something, woe is me. And they're always sharing a new sob story. They are innocent, but the world around is always against them. They tend to complain, often, all the time, and they're loud about it. And they always complain about the problems. And then there's the criticizer. A lot of these energy vampires are like narcissists because all of the same things, they have the same characteristics. Narcissists are energy vampires. They can also come across as the criticizer. Some people spend a lot of time and energy just criticizing, constantly criticizing other people and criticizing things and situations. Nothing is ever good enough for them. And they can find fault with just about everything and anything. Then you have the dramatizer. These people create and attract a lot of drama. They always seem to be in the middle of a major catastrophe. And it's like they always need your help and they need your support. These people are always calling you and telling you their sob story and being so dramatic about it. And they always need help. They always need help. Always. Then you have the manipulator. These people are able to manipulate just about any situation to their advantage. These are the tricky ones. They're all tricky, but you got to watch out for the manipulator. They rarely say what they mean. They dance around you in conversation. They rarely say what they mean, and they usually have a hidden agenda. I shouldn't say usually. They always have a hidden agenda. Then you have the negative thinker. These people always see the glass half empty and have a very negative attitude towards life. They can always be counted on to point out the downside or potential risks without leaving any room for hope, joy, or excitement. They like suck the joy out of everything. Then there's the blamer. These people are quick to place blame. You did it, you did it. They're quick to point the finger and place blame on other people. They don't take accountability for their own actions. They blame other people. They're never at fault, but always willing to hand out shame and guilt. So you got to be careful with all of them, especially the person that has all of those characteristics. Is characteristics even the right word? I know people like this. I was raised around these narcissistic energy vampires. I could spot them a mile away. When they open their mouth and they just start talking, it's like narcissist, energy vampire. The manipulator is the one that you got to watch out for because they play a good game. There should be one in here called the sleeper, the one that puts you to sleep until they trick you. But most energy vampires are all of these, in my opinion. Very, very narcissistic, in my opinion. They always want to be the center of attention. That's why I feel like narcissistic people are just energy vampires, and energy vampires are just narcissistic people. But is that narcissistic of me to say that? They always want to be in the center of attention. Energy vampires are extremely self-centered and always want to be in the center of attention. They dominate the conversation. I hate that. But I do have a tendency to dominate conversations when I'm really interested in what I'm talking about. And I hate to be interrupted. And when I notice that there's somebody in the group trying to always interrupt me, it's like I have to be dominant in the situation. And I always wonder if I'm coming across as a narcissist, an energy vampire, or an egotistical little bitch. But I always have to dominate the conversation when I'm interested in what I'm talking about. Anyways, back to the energy vampires. They definitely like to dominate the conversation and ensure the focus is always on themselves. That's the difference between me dominating a conversation, because I don't always want the focus to be on me. I only want the focus to be on me when I'm trying to get my point across or tell somebody a story about something and I have a point to make. If I get interrupted, then I come off as more dominant trying to get my point across. But in any other time, I don't even really like to be in conversation. I really don't. I always tell you guys I'm going to go live, and I don't, because apparently I cannot dominate the conversation. I don't have that in me to go live. I shut down. So in my humble opinion, I don't feel like I'm really that dominant. I can be though. So yeah, these energy vampires will dominate the conversation to make sure that they are heard always, and they always want to make sure the focus is on them. If someone else brings up a different topic, they find a way to one up them and bring the attention right back to themselves. They have to be better than their story has to be better than your story. So for instance, they might say, you might be talking about a vacation that you went on, and you might be telling them about how beautiful the beaches were, and it might remind them of a trip that they've taken themselves, and they will make their story much more elaborate than your story. They will tell a story about how their beaches were bigger, more beautiful, the sand was whiter, the water was clearer. I don't know. They'll just make their story sound so much better than your story. Nothing can compare to how beautiful, their story is, and their ocean was, and their beach was, and, where they swam, and the dolphins that they seen, and the starfish that they found was, compared to your story. And they'll want to show you pictures, like the original person telling a story. They'll want to show you pictures of everything, but the energy vampire would have dominated the conversation and brought all the focus to themselves, and already have the attention of everybody, showing their pictures of the time they went to, wherever, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Australia, wherever they went. And they would have had already stolen the spotlight from you. So again, they're always going to one-up you. They exaggerate everything. Energy vampires are so dramatic. They can be so dramatic. They exaggerate everything. They tend to exaggerate every little thing, every little detail that happens to them, making mountains out of molehills. They make everything sound much bigger, better, or worse than it actually is. Energy vampires are very good at playing the blame game. They're always manipulating situations so that they're never at fault. They're quick to assign blame to everyone but themselves. The problem may be with the weather. It could be with their vehicle, the traffic, you. They'll blame you. They'll blame their loved ones, their colleagues, um, but they'll never blame themselves. They always leave you feeling worn out. Interacting with an energy vampire often elicits an unpleasant emotional reaction that leaves you just feeling so exhausted and worn out. You feel drained. If you're around energy, any kind of energy vampire, you might, after being around this person for a short period of time, or even the longer you're around them, the worse it is. But you might feel distressed. You might feel worried. You have a lot of anxiety, anger, guilt, shame, sadness, confusion, negative emotions. Like these can contribute to, mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and stress. And that's, you know, them leaving you feeling like that. They did that to you. They they mess with your brain. They use people without giving anything in return. Energy vampires want all of your attention. They want all of your care and your emotional support, but are never willing to give you anything in return. And if they do, they will rub it in your face the first moment they get. You make them mad or you do something that's unfair to them, they rub it in your face. Even if you ask for their help with something, they will rub it in your face. If you were to ask an energy vampire for help, there are certain ones that will not make time for you. They'll make up an excuse and bring the attention back around to themselves as to why they can't help you. They'll use you for their emotional needs without giving you anything in return. You cannot depend on an energy vampire or a narcissist. So these are some steps that you can take to protect yourself against an energy vampire. Leave. You'd have to adjust your expectations. If you know that so and so in your life is an energy vampire, you'll have to adjust your expectations of that person. If the energy vampire is someone close to you, you may find yourself feeling upset and disappointed when they fail to reciprocate the support that you've shown them. And it can help to adjust your expectations and understand that they're never going to show up for you. Seeing them for who they are can help you to take the steps, that's required to protect yourself against them and to protect your sanity. It's hard, especially if the people that are in your life are just people that you cannot just cut out. Like, I mean, it's easier said than done. Let's be honest. Can't just be like, well, I'm just going to cut everybody out and not talk to them. I mean, you could do that, but I mean, it's easier, like I said, it's easier said than done. So you'd have to limit your exposure to them. Create boundaries. Boundaries, there's that word again. If you watched my last video, boundaries, I must have said it like 50 times. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. You can set boundaries in your relationship with the person to limit your exposure to them as much as possible. For instance, if they're a colleague, you may have no choice but to work with them, but you don't have to have lunch with them. You don't have to have coffee with them. You don't have to take a walk with them. You just go to work, you work, and you do your job, and that's it. That's it. You don't have to do any of the extras. Protect your emotional energy. I was going to touch on if you're dating an energy vampire or if your parents are energy vampires or people that you love, but I think you guys get the point by now, right? Boundaries. You just have to protect your emotional energy and do whatever it takes. It gets a little tricky when it's the people you live with. You'll figure it out. I'm not here to tell you what to do, just sharing. Just sharing. Energy vampires feed off of your emotional energy. If you do happen to interact with them, try to avoid giving them the reaction that they want to their dramatic stories or statements or whatever it is that they're doing that's causing they're being so dramatic. Don't show them reactions to their complaints. Keep a neutral expression. When they're telling a story, don't be like, damn, oh my God. Don't give them that. That's what they want. Just be neutral, just a neutral expression, because the key is to be boring. And then they'll go suck somebody else's energy and not yours because you're too boring. They don't get anything from you if you're neutral. If you have a neutral expression and you're just like, if you're not showing them that like, oh, wow, really? Excitement, they won't be interested in you. And then just shrug them off as though they're not a big deal. And if they don't get the reaction that they're looking for, they will eventually lose interest in you and leave you alone and go find another victim to feed off of energetically. I can elaborate, but I'm not. Avoid arguing with them. Arguing with them is like arguing with a drunk. Really, it's like arguing with a drunk person. You're never going to win. You might find yourself feeling tempted to argue with them because, they'll get you. They hit below the belt. Because these people will twist logic and create negative outlooks and exaggerate claims, and it will piss you off, and you'll want to defend your whatever it is that you're trying to defend. Yourself, the people that they're talking about, the situation at hand. So don't argue with them. Don't give them what they want. However, doing so will only make you look like the villain. So if you do argue with them, you will be the villain in their story, in their next story, to the next person that they're being dramatic with and talking to and feeding off of. You will be the topic of that story. You will be the villain in that story. So instead, stay neutral. Bite your tongue. Leave. Walk away. No reaction. No reaction is a bigger blow to them than a negative reaction. Especially if you're dating one. Learn to say no. If the person is asking you for something, avoid getting sucked into their vortex and learn to say no. Stop being that yes person. Stop being a people pleaser. You are the perfect victim for an energy vampire if you are a people pleaser. Stop being a people pleaser. Say no when you want to say no. Don't say yes when you mean no. Say no. Who cares who you piss off? Say no. Especially around narcissistic people and energy vampires. Say no. Learn to say no. You feel so much better when you learn to say no to people. I know, because I was a people pleaser. I say no now. I say no a lot. So to avoid getting sucked into their vortex, learn to say no. For instance, if they're asking you to help them with a project, you could say, I'm sorry, I can't. Or just simply say, no, I'm busy. Or no. If all else fails, cut them out of your life. If possible, cut the person out of your life and avoid interacting with them altogether. It's easier when they're not lovers or family members, you can just cut them quicker, right? If they're just friends or co-workers, you can just cut them quicker. It's a lot easier. But you have the option to do that. You can do anything you want. You're a sovereign being. You're a sovereign divine being. You are the co-creator of your reality. Do what makes you happy. You can cut that person out of your life and avoid interacting with them altogether. If they're a colleague or family member and you can't avoid them, you can limit your interaction with them and distance yourself from them as much as possible. If you're dating one, it's just going to get worse. If you're at the beginning of a relationship and you're realizing that you're with an energy vampire, it's just going to get worse. If you don't nip it in the bud at the beginning, if you don't do this at the beginning, it's just going to get worse. You're going to be so drained and so unhappy. Let them go. Like I said, I know it's easier said than done, but you will see in the long run. If you're married to one, you probably cope by learning to be the dullest person to talk to in your relationship. Remember, no reaction is a good reaction. No reaction is a good action. They will call their friends or other family members and suck their energy if they don't get it from you. So, what'd you think? That was just a quick little video about energy vampires. I know I've done other videos. They're on my YouTube channel somewhere. You can just type Witchy Vibes 11 energy vampires, but I know I don't always title my videos to what I'm talking about, so you might not find it. If I find it, maybe I'll link it. I probably won't do that now, but eventually. Or maybe I'll just share it in the community, you know, where the community posts are. Just share it there. But I know that I've went in deeper talking about energy vampires, but I mean, like, I think you guys get the picture, right? I pretty much summed it up in this video. So for the person that asked me, what is an energy vampire? You're welcome. Mwah.